Good morning, Wilderness Fellowship. It's wonderful to be able to share with you in some form. It's not quite what I would have done had I been with you physically, but God has His way and He will use whatever we bring to Him, whatever offering we bring. This morning, I want to share with you a message and a testimony. The two go together, and finally end with a song. Many of you will remember the ministry that Derek and I had together. And once the Lord took him home, I had to reassess and look at everything in my life. Do I even carry on with ministering? What is God's plan? And He started telling me step by step what I needed to do. And He gave me a message for the season, for this particular time. And I was going to bring this message to you as well. As I was walking in Sedgefield, my daughter and I took a week away. And I said, Lord, what do you want me to speak about? And He said, faith. Faith. Will I find faith when I come back? Now, I know that it's a very wide topic. And please remember that this is before we had the lockdown. This is before we had the COVID situation. So I believe in a sense it's a prophetic message. Because right now, it is darker than it's ever been before for us. But that means that the light is so much brighter. And that is our call, to step out, to be the light in these times. Anyhow, the text or the verse that the Lord brought to mind was from Luke 18, verse 8. And He said, when I return, will I find faith on the earth? Now, faith is a doing word. As is everything that the Lord gives us. Love, it's a doing word. Peace, it's an experiential word. But many, many years ago, there was an acrobat called Blondin. And he used to put a tightrope across the Niagara Falls and walk across it without a safety net and perform all sorts of antics. Even, I think, went across with a bicycle one time. One day, he had a crowd there and he took a wheelbarrow across. And then he came back and he said, does anyone here believe I can wheel a man in this wheelbarrow across this rope? Yes, the crowd shouted. Okay, he said, can I have a volunteer? As you would well guess, the silence was deafening. But that is us. So often we say we have faith, but it's very hard to sometimes put it into practice. Now, I want to read to you a short account from the Gospel of Matthew. And you know it very well. But the Lord showed me something interesting about this passage. I'm going to read from, it's Matthew chapter 14, and I'm going to read from verse 28. Jesus had come to the disciples walking on the water. And Peter answered Him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So He said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out His hand and caught him and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those who were in the boat came and worshipped Him, saying, Surely you are the Son of God. Now, what's interesting is that there were two aspects or two kinds of believers that are being illustrated here. The first was the one who gets out the boat. Jesus says, come, and so we go. We get out the boat, we do what He's asking us to do. But perhaps we start to lose faith. We look at the circumstances, we look at the storms, we look at the trials. We start to sink, we cry out, and God helps us. Do you know that Peter was the one who got admonished? Not the guys in the boat who were going, yes, go Peter, go Peter. It was Peter whom the Lord admonished. The Lord Jesus simply got into the boat with the other disciples. and the circumstances changed. And they said, truly you are God. And in Luke, the account says, and immediately they were on the other side. Now, friends, this message is one of encouragement to you because you may not be like Peter. You may be a boat sitter. You may want to be like Peter, but you can't quite get there. And God understands. Jesus climbs into the boat of our circumstances. He is with us, whether he's calling us or whether he's in the boat with us. Our job is to acknowledge him in each and every situation we find ourselves in. And once we do, we will find ourselves safely on the other side. Now, friends, I want to share with you the testimony about Derek's final month. And I do hope and pray this encourages you, because we stepped out of the boat in terms of the situation we found ourselves in. He was diagnosed with throat cancer. We'd just been to Graaff-Reinet. He'd been battling for some time. He'd lost his voice over a period of time. And finally, when he went back to the ENT for a second time, the ENT said, look, there's a growth. And well, the first time he said there's a growth. The second time he said, it should come out immediately. I don't think it's cancerous, but it has grown. So the very day we got back from Graaff-Reinet, we went off to Groote Schuur. I'll try to be brief because there are so many details, and the details really do highlight the fact that God's hand was over us all the time. But in brief, he went into surgery to have this growth removed, and he almost died on the operating table because it was so big it blocked the airway. So they gave him a tracheostomy, which is a hole in the throat, so that he could breathe. And they said they think it's cancerous, and it's probably in the larynx as well. Well, a week after the hospital situation, Derek was at home and he battled a lot with mucus, this foreign body, plastic sitting in here. He had a lung infection. He was on 3 lots of antibiotics. He couldn't sleep at night because of having to drain this thing all the time. He had to sleep sitting up, and he had said to me, that week was hell. The rest afterwards, not so much. Anyway, the one morning he woke up and the pipe had come out. So I was wondering if he was going to be able to breathe long enough to get him to hospital. But he was breathing fine. That was miracle number 1. He said to me, Jenny, if they're going to do all this, they're going to give me chemo, radiation, remove the larynx, remove the polyp. I don't really want to be here because I feel my purpose for being here is not to live for myself and my own life and not to just survive, but to serve the Lord. So either he's going to heal me or he's going to take me home, but I don't want to go through any of that. And my friends, for the first time in this whole build-up, I felt the power of the Spirit rising up in me in agreement. Derek was a very sensitive person on every level. So physically as well, if you gave him a cup of coffee, he would be up all night. Or if he'd eaten garlic, he would have jerky legs. So I knew in my heart that probably the treatment alone would have been death for him. So we decided to trust Jesus for Derek's potential death, but hoping and praying for his healing. Of course, we had all those who told us how terrible it was going to be, that he would suffer, that he would suffocate to death, that he wouldn't be able to eat, that he'd be fed through a tube. The picture was not a pretty one. But Jesus was faithful because Derek did not die of starvation and he did not suffocate to death. He just got weaker. That a week before he passed away, we ministered. He could only play his guitar halfway through, but we ministered. And 5 days before he passed away, we also did the same thing. On the last day, the Saturday, 28th of December, he still got up, he got dressed. 2 days before that, my daughter and I had said that we had felt a peace that was almost physical, like a blanket over us in our home. Derek and I had chatted about how this situation had built our faith in Jesus. He really carried us through the fire, and we came out undamaged on the other side. And definitely for Derek, he is rejoicing with the Lord right now. But I just want to highlight two things that comforted me so much and showed me that God is in every detail. We know he tells us that in his word. We know in Psalm 139, he says, every day of yours is numbered. You're sitting down, you're standing up. We know he is perfectly in control. But obviously in my situation, Jesus knew what was needed. On the last Saturday, his brother and brother's son, who were both pastors, came round to the house, obviously not knowing it was Derek's last Saturday, and they brought his mother to visit. Now, Derek's parents had not been to our house for 10 years because when his father was still with us, he didn't like to drive on the freeways anymore. So we always used to just visit them. So they arrived on that Saturday. Miracle number one. Number two, they took him into the room, Barry, his brother, and Garth, and anointed him with oil. And in retrospect, I realized that that was preparation for the burial. Anointed him with oil, prayed over him, worshipped. What a send-off. But here's the cherry on the cake. For some time, 6 months before this, we had been recording messages and putting them on Seal's course live, and then we decided to pre-record. And then 2 months, more or less 2 months before that, before December, Derek said, I think we should just pre-record a whole lot of messages and build up a stock and then just upload them on the Saturday. Then it takes all the pressure off. So that's what we did. We didn't count the number of songs and messages we recorded, and we also didn't put the songs in any particular order. That last Saturday morning, we had the last song in our little stockpile to load up. We reached the end of the year with all our material. But the words of that last song, the chorus goes, go rest high on the mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven a shouting, love for the Father and the Son. That whole song was biographical and really spoke about Derek for me. Jesus had said, today is the day, your work is done, you are coming home. And you know, friends, sometimes we face such difficult situations that we don't understand. But sometimes we don't need to understand. We just need to trust our God, our Lord Jesus, who holds our days and our tomorrows in his hands. Jesus was with us on the water and in the boat. And I know that he is with you too. Just remember to acknowledge him in each and every circumstances, and his will and his perfect way for you to walk will be done and will be fulfilled. So to end with, I would like to sing a song that we know so well. You're welcome to join me with the chorus wherever you are. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Because as long as our eyes are on him, we will be filled with faith and we will have the comfort we so desperately need. Bless you all.
Oh, soul, are you weary and troubled? No light in the darkness we see. There's light for a look at the Savior, and a life more abundant and free. His word shall not fail you, he promised. Believe it, and all will be well. Then go to a world that is dying, his perfect salvation to tell. So turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of the earth will grow straight.